Hello, everybody. This is a special, spur of the moment, impromptu live demonstration on how to assemble this design. This is brand new. I just put this on the website yesterday or maybe last night. It just dropped, but it's a Christmas countdown. And because it's set up with a dial for 24 days and we're already on the second day of December, I wanted to get it up quick and also get this video out here for you guys to understand how to assemble it. It's really, really easy, but there are one or two things that if you don't do them in the right order, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. So this design was a request from one of my patrons, Craig. You see him in the stream quite often. He may join in here in a little bit. I was going to record this video and get it up today, but unfortunately I had another funeral to attend today and the hours just got away from me and not enough hours in the day to get everything done. But I felt like a lot of people have already downloaded this file because the patrons see this stuff, before the general public does. And so I wanted to make this video showing those little roadblocks to watch out for, and also share some design tips, some things you can do to change this to make it a little bit unique and make it your own. I'm going to show you how the file will download and import when you bring it in from hobowithwood.com. I did cut this file out with my the Rolly XW, and if you were interested in learning more about the Rolly, hobowithwood.com/Rolly. I used the 10 watt to do this entire thing. Even though I've got the 30 watt module in here, I switched it to 10 watt, did all the engraving and all the cutting with the 10 watt, and made this out of 3mm Baltic birch. You can make it out of thicker stuff if you want to. It is a scalable design, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. But Craig thought maybe, like I said, I've got 1 through 24 on here on the dial. And the dial up here, and it counts down. It's easy to do when it's sitting down. Holding it's a little tough, but the dial rotates. And so if we start out here, we got 22 days. Let's see here, 22. There we go. So 22 days of Christmas. And once it counts down to, no days left in Christmas, I was like, okay, I got down to 1 day. That'd be the 24th. I'm done with my countdown. But Craig was like, I think I might like it if it had the 25 on there. And I said, okay. I said, I thought about that, but I didn't know about the 25. I was thinking maybe like Christmas present SVG there for 25 or something like that. And he said, Santa Claus. And I said, that's a good idea. So he had a Santa Claus SVG. I don't, but I've got a snowman, and I'm going to show you how to recreate the artwork in here and incorporate the snowman with a 25th position. So everything stays distributed. It's real simple, but as it is, it comes in with 1 through 24. And it's 3-tier base. So it's got a heavy base on it. So it's nice and sturdy. This sign is an optional feature you can leave on or take off, and I'll show you that in the artwork. And this one is completely natural. I haven't done any finish work on this at all. I did not stain anything, did not apply any lacquer or nothing. This one is just right now is just completely raw right off of the laser bed. But we're going to do an assembly on this, and I'm going to show you the design in LightBurn, show you how it's laid out and how easy it is to put on the machine. We'll do a quick remodeling of the ring, and I'm going to show you the inspiration for this. This was not my concept. It was not my idea. Craig, in fact, Saturday after the live stream, Saturday was 3 o'clock. Yeah. And went a little over 2 hours. It was a little after 5. Then I went and took a quick nap. And then when I woke up, I had a message from Craig in Facebook. And let's see here. Switch. Did we get that? Yep. And switch. Nope. Wrong camera, dummy. There we go. So Craig sent me a photograph at 3:30. And can I make it bigger? No, I can't make it bigger in here. But he described it, but I didn't see it until 9:40. 9:40. I said, "Yeah, I seen this. It looks like it's a piece of cake." And so we got together on Sunday. Wrong camera again. Switch. Long day. We got together on Sunday at 1 o'clock online to discuss the design and all that. But I got that at 9:40 Saturday night, and before we got together Sunday afternoon, I had already finished the design. I'd already worked it all out and did some stuff, and I think I waited on him for his input. I may have actually already had it cutting out, and then he come in with his idea of the 25 days with Santa Claus instead of 24, and we're going to show you how to do that. But he was at a craft show, a craft fair, and believe it or not, there's a place called Mayo, Florida. I said, Mayo, like mayonnaise? He said, yep, mayonnaise without the anise. I'm like, okay. So he was at a craft fair in Mayo, Florida, and he seen this design. And because he is a part of the Hobo Nation and a laserologist himself, and he did buy several things from this lady at her craft show. But he took a picture of that because he's like, I'm a laserologist and I'm part of the Hobo Nation. I should be able to figure that out. So instead of buying it, he just took a picture of it. And I said, okay, yeah, I believe I can reverse engineer that. And I come up with my version of it. In fact, her version, in fact, I can show you her site. Because I contacted her and talked to her live yesterday with Craig just to make sure that she understood, hey, I've seen this. I'm going to reverse engineer it, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And so here, this is her. This is the lady that, let's make sure I got it the right camera this time. There we go. Go back over here. All right. Phooey, I just drew a complete blank on her name, and she doesn't tell us her name right here. And I am so sorry that I just drew a blank on your name. But her website is No Worries Studio, noworriesstudio.com. And she says she's just like Patrick is a pharmacist. She is, after 27 years as a pharmacist, she's ready to change lanes and pursue a passion. And she is doing all kinds of different craft work. And this is she's selling finished products. She has an Eon CO2, 100-watt CO2, and she's actually making finished products and selling them in craft shows and on the website and on Etsy and different places. So she's not selling digital files. But oops, wrong button. Come on, there we go. So this is the file that he sent me a picture of. He didn't send me the file. He sent me an actual photograph of this at the craft fair. And this was kind of neat. There are things about it that I really do like. I like the two-tone. She's using different woods. But there are things about this file that I don't like. And she and I talked about it, and she agreed with me on some of them. So I'm not saying anything out of turn here or nothing that I wouldn't or haven't already said to her. I didn't like the way the wheels were proud on the tires and protruded outward, and the tires were sunk back in there. And also the tires, can we zoom in on that? Yeah. The tires, both tires, there's just a long elongated slot in here that the tires drop down into, and it's actually sitting on the rims. And so, or at least it is back here. So it looks kind of like it's got a flat tire. This truck, I didn't notice this before, but this truck has got I forget what the kids call it, the Carolina drop, where they take those stupid trucks and they slam the rear end and jack the front way up, put half of a lift kit on a four-wheel drive. Looks stupid. And some redneck in North Carolina started it, and somehow it got named the Carolina drop. And been outlawed, thankfully, in most states, if not all states. But this truck has the Carolina drop. Unfortunately, it's sitting low in the rear. But she and I talked about that and said, hey, and I sent her my file for free. I was giving that to her just to say, hey, that I want to acknowledge you, acknowledge your site. I will give her a shout out. Is her name Vicky? I am so sorry that I went blank on her name completely. I think it's Vicky. But she's got all kinds of neat designs on here. But I did send her my design so that she could play with it. And also this stake bed is proud. It sits on top of the truck, so the stakes are hanging out over the side of the bed. Her tree is a separate piece from the truck. So she was able to do 2 different wood types or 2 different finishes with the wood. And she opted to do cutouts with the letters. So it's actually just 3 cutouts, days until Christmas, or 3 separate pieces, and glued it to the face of it. I opted to go with a little simpler design and engrave it instead of cutting them out. But I changed up the wheel design, the stake bed design. And so kudos to her for what she's doing and the success she's having. And if you guys buy finished products, go over to No Worries Studio. NoWorriesStudio.com. Check out the stuff she's got out there. She's got all kinds of things. What Craig bought, in fact, just for giggles, let me show you this because it's actually kind of cool. If any of you guys have a CO2, I don't want to do that. I want to go back. If you have a CO2 and you have the ability to cut, let's see, search. Where's my search tab? Search products. Ornament. She does these cool ornaments with the clear acrylic, like this right here. It's a multi-layered design where she's got 2 pieces of clear acrylic, and these are sandwiched in between them. And this one's done like a baby rattle, baby's first Christmas, got the name on top of the acrylic. And these are actually loose, so they shake around like a snow globe, and it's got some acrylic pieces out on top. And she does, personalization and customizing, and she has a couple different versions of ornaments like that. Snow globes, the first Christmas, all that kind of stuff. So being that Craig doesn't have a CO2 and she had it there and had those, he bought, I think, several of those, he said. So check her out, NoWorriesStudio.com. Maybe send her some love. She is another laserologist out there trying to shake some bushes and figure this stuff out. But I seen her design, and Craig sent it to me actually, and I've reverse engineered it and come up with my version here. And we're going to go through this design and its customizations, and we're going to assemble one and talk about the roadblocks, the possible roadblocks when you try to put this together. So let's jump over. Actually, you know what? Let me look at the comments and see if anything going on, any questions so far. I haven't nothing really to question about. Let's see. Oh, well, I see that already. Burr. Jeep RCL says white stuff on the ground here. Yeah, burr. Yeah. I enjoy looking at snow. I enjoy snow skiing. I ain't been skiing in a while. I'll probably kill myself now. But and down here, I'm just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And when we get snow, it's been 2022 since we've even seen any snow. And when we do see snow, if it accumulates, it's usually gone in 24 to 36 hours, if not sooner. It don't hang around long. Just an FYI, I got the membership thing taken care of. Okay, wonderful. Good to hear, Bob. All right. I like both for different reasons. I'm not real sure what you're talking about, Connie, because I'm slow. You like both designs, maybe? All right. I'm going to mark this spot, and we're going to jump over to LightBurn. And I'm going to bring this in as it comes in from, say, Connie says she likes both designs. Yeah, I like having the extra dimension of the raised lettering she's got there, but she's working with 100-watt CO2, a little more power, and but I like them both. And this one was just, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think it's a little bit easier to assemble because it's not got quite as many pieces to it. But let's jump over to LightBurn. Switch, switch, switch. All right. So if you download this, in fact, let's go import or open and e-commerce Christmas countdown. When you open it, scroll out so you can see it all. Because this is a larger file, and I've included an image here so you can see how the finished product should or could look. I do have 3 snowflakes here, but there's only 2 in the design. But all I did was just duplicate one of them and cut it out twice. Or no, it was actually I had a spare one laying on the desk for some reason. But if you want additional snowflakes, you can just cut out more copies of those and put a 3rd one out there, or a 4th one. But this one, the smallest one, currently is about 3/4 of an inch. It's not very big. So I don't know that I'd go much smaller than that in fear of burning up your material. But so you've got a guide to go by, and I've got 4 different tool paths with everything nested on 4 tool paths. And I always recommend never working from your original import or your original download as far as when you go to start sending jobs to the laser. I've got those set up over there. They may be grouped in there. Actually, I don't think they are. But I like to select a toolpath, duplicate it, group it so it all stays together, and then send it. And in this case, especially since I'm working with the Rolly XW, and I'm going to show you a video in this that's going to blow some of you's minds. For those who have not bitten the bullet and gotten you a Rolly yet, when you see this, it's liable to go. But I take this and I'll group them up, or I'll duplicate it, select one whole tool path, start up here in the corner and select that. I'll say Control D, duplicate it, and group that duplication, and then send it to the corner. Now that tool path is set right there in the very corner. I will ungroup it again, and I may need to, I'll need to continue to ungroup it if I'm going to need to resize my slots and tabs. It is currently set up at, I think, a 3mm tab and a 3mm slot. So if your material happens to be 3.1, or if you only want to do 2.8 or whatever, you can use the resize slots and selection tool on this one. It works just fine. But to do that, you would need to ungroup everything, because if it's grouped, the tool won't work if those things are grouped. So we'll ungroup everything. And you can check, select that one, and look, the height of that's 3mm. So that's a 3mm slot. This one over here is not big enough. Oops, I just let's undo that. Did I change it when I selected it? Nope. So yeah, you want to have paid attention to those. I've got those at 5.732. They're less than 6 mil, because switch, 2 of these layers are going to have tabs on them that you're going to glue together. And the material I was working with when I designed this was just a little bit less than 3 mil, and I glued it together, and I wanted to have a real good snug fit. So when it put it in the stand, it's not got any movement to it. So you want to check your material thickness, and if you're going to tip, the material thicknesses all vary. You're going to have one layer that's going to be the cradle for the dial, and then the backboard that get glued together that will make up the 2 tabs. Measure whatever 2 boards you're going to be using for that, and then set your slot thickness so you get a good tight fit. And these 2 slots line up with these 2 slots, So if you were to select that and that, since these two are, or at least they should be, you're parallel with each other, you could just change the height right here. As oh, what you know what? If you have your anchor point in the right position. If you're not familiar with the anchor points, and that's what I call. I named them the anchor points about a year ago. LightBurn has never they acknowledge them, but they never named them. They're not in the manuals anywhere with a name. But I call them anchor points. If you've watched my videos, you've heard me refer to them. It's these dots up here. If the anchor point is in the very center and you're only changing those two, you could, with that in the center, just simply say, I want to change the height of those to 6 mil. Oh, that moved out. Why did that move out? I've never seen it do that before. Undo. Oh, duh. Because I had the aspect ratio locked. Duh. If you're going to do it that way, make sure the aspect ratio is unlocked so it only moves the height. So unlock the aspect ratio. Those two are selected, and you change the anchor points in the middle, 6 mil, and that would change that. But and if the reason I did it that way is because if you selected this whole thing and used the resize slots and selection tools, resize slots and selection, old material thickness 3, it would still work, wouldn't give you any troubles. And actually slot width. There is wanting to change those. I don't want to change those. That was actually 6. Actually, it was 5 something. And we want to change it to 6. That works. Tab. Actually, it's still seeing those, wanting to move those. And I don't want to move those up there. I don't know why it's seeing those because old material thickness is 3 mil. It shouldn't be looking at those right now. So because there are variations in your the required slot thicknesses, you may not want to use the resize slot tool, and it's easy enough just to change the height of as long as you're only doing them in pairs that are parallel to each other. And the two out front there, if you don't want the little sign in the front, just delete those and omit it and be done with that. Let's change these two anchor points in the middle. 6 mil is already done. So those are actually already at 6 mil. All right. So this is the top layer of the base. This is the second layer of the base. And this is the third layer of the base with the 2 slots for the sign. Well, here's your sign. What's his name? Bill Engvall. Here's your sign. I put the sign in the very middle of this layer here to save material. And I did it before I started laying stuff out and realized I had plenty of excess over here. I could have put it here, but I don't need to put it over here. So this would be material I might use on another project. But because this part of that second layer, this blue toolpath right here is the outer perimeter of this top layer. And you can see it covers that up completely. So I'm able to cut that sign out of there, and that whole cutout will be sandwiched and hidden between the top and bottom layer. So just a cool way to save a little bit of material. And Craig's in the house. I see Craig's here. And Alex said, and Craig, I've already told everybody you were responsible for this. All right. So this is the the first layer that I've got to bring over here. And other than the signs and the slots, there's nothing to worry about here. You can see this one has got tabs on it. And actually you might, and because you're only going to be going through the top layer and the second layer, whatever that total combined thickness is, I would do just shy of its total. So if you're working with 3 mil or approximately 3 mil wood, I would do my tab heights just under 6. And currently they're in here like at 578 or something. 594. This one over here's 579. Yeah, so they're just under 6 mil. So if you're using 3 millimeter wood, then those would be fine. But they will work with the resize tool, resize slots and selection, tab height. And I'm going to put it in here at 6, and we're going to say we change it to 3 and increase our tolerances And now you can see both of them. So you can resize that with the resize tool. So that's everything on here. Obviously, this is a fender and a tire. And I'm going to go over the settings and stuff in a minute. Snowflake. And this little piece right here, this is one of the pieces that's the potential roadblock. That is a piece of the scar for the second layer that also serves as an alignment for the disc. It goes right here behind the top layer, and the disc rides right back in there and there on that star. And if that's not positioned properly or correctly, it will drive you nuts trying to make that thing work. So, and I'll show you that when we go to assemble it. So there's that. Let's get that out of there. And I'll look real quick at the comments. Yeah, Connie, I've known this, and this is how do you, when my first laser was a 10 watt. I got one of the 10 watt X-Fulls, and it drove me nuts. And when I started getting a pretty good handle on it, I'm like, okay, this thing is just too slow. I need more power. I felt like Tim the Tool Man. I need more power. And so I entertained. I said, I need a CO2. I need more power. I need to cut faster. This is too slow. I need fast. And I ended up getting the 60 watt Monport CO2. Nah, it's a lot of trouble, a lot of maintenance for me. And for what little bit of benefits that were there, I'm like, I ended up going back to my diodes and have enjoyed the diodes and haven't even turned that thing on, especially since I've got the rollies now. I have not turned the Monport on since acquiring the rollies. And more on that. But this is done with the 10 watt. And when I got my last material in, when I got my last batch of Baltic birch in, and I've shown you guys how I do this with every batch material, every material I get in, I do cut test. And I start, and then those were obviously too much power at the bottom, but this gave me a window to search for over here, or, find the sweet spot. And then did the sweet spot at 10 watt and 30 watt and got me two good color palettes. And from here, you guys should be able to see this one, or is it? Yeah, this one. This one is much, much darker than this one. And yes, that one is the 10 watt. It's out of focus, but you can see this is the 10 watt. By using the 10 watt instead of the 30 watt, I'm able, and going slower at lower powers, the darkest and cleanest I was getting was somewhere around 500 to 600 millimeters a minute, and only 10 to 12% power on a 10 watt diode. But to do that, I'm working at 500 to 600 millimeters a minute. It's moving slow, but it gets great detail. And because I was wanting to do this all natural and want it to be crisp and clean, I said, okay, I'm going to sacrifice the time to get the increased quality. And plus, there are a lot of folks like you out there who are using the 10 watts, and you have not had the opportunity to step up to a 20 or a 30 watt yet. And you get more detail out of the 10. So yeah, there was some thought that went into doing the 10. Where did it? Okay, there's that. That cutout spot for the sign is a good place to slip in. Well, yeah, but it's stable. But yeah, if you wanted to add some ballast to the sign, if you had something that would fit, and I've done that. Being that I'm right next door to my former automotive shop, I've gone over there and grabbed lead wheel weights that they use to balance tires and put those in some of the bases to add ballast and make them more stable. But because this is 3-tier base and I've got it wide enough, it is really stable. It's not going to, even me pushing on it, it comes back. It's not going to just fall over easily. You can knock it over. You can knock it over with lead in it. I'm going to put BR 549 on the plate. Russ, I'm not familiar with that joke. And hey, Russ, how you doing, brother? Let's see here. Patience is a virtue. The early bird might get the worm, but the second mouse always gets the cheese. Amen, brother. Amen. All right. So mark that spot. So we talked about the slots, the tabs, where the sign's at, and if you don't want that the sign, omit those tabs and delete that cutout, and you'll save some time. We talked a little bit about the star. If we go back over here and look at this particular piece, this is the main backboard. The main backboard. And this is the star that goes on the very top layer. And here's the top half of the star that lines up with this bottom half of the star, and it will end up leaving a gap that's exactly big enough for this ring to ride on. And to minimize your headaches and to prevent any potential roadblocks when you're assembling this, I strongly recommend taking that star, which you're going to see me do in a second. We're going to take that star, the entire star, and glue the top on. And I'll probably do it with a little bit of super glue and probably won't use any accelerant because give me just enough time to move it around. But I can use the points of the star to make sure it's exactly where it needs to be and do the same thing to the bottom part. And then by doing those points first, that's going to ensure I've got the proper spacing for that ring. Then once that's glued up and that's one, those three pieces are now one. When I'm ready to glue it in place, I will take my ring, place it on top of this piece, apply some glue to the back of the 2-layer star, and put it on here. You obviously have 3 registration points here, here, and here for where that star needs to be, but there's also, this is an engraved line just for registration purposes. So you know exactly where those other points need to be, because the alignment of that star is absolutely crucial in order to get that ring to be able to spin. If you have those either out of a line or if it's just a little bit crooked, if you get this side of the star just ever so slightly higher up here, then an 1/8 of an inch here might be a 1/4 of an inch out here by the time it gets down to the bottom of that ring. So placement of that star is absolutely crucial. This piece here will glue onto that board, and that big old semicircle there will also cradle this ring, so it will ride and slide around that semicircle and then through the top of that star. So it's really not that difficult of a piece, but I did not mention that to Craig. I didn't tell Craig anything about the assembly. Once I got the design finished and I put it together and it worked, I sent him the file and said, okay, you cut it out, you put it together, and tell me what you run into. And that's what he ran into, is he didn't put the star together first, and he was able to get it working. In fact, once he got it back, and he used some wax. I didn't have any wax handy. And he put a little bit of wax on the ring, and his actually would just spin very easily. But he had to reposition his pieces because he didn't do them the way. And he said, yep, you need to make sure you make people aware of that. So this video will be linked to the product description in the website. So people, if they want to, they can watch it and prevent those roadblocks. But let's see here. Yeah, Ed, this is an impromptu. This was going to be a video, but I just not enough hours in the day. Question I was a few minutes late, so we missed the show. I missed the show on the project. Does the star not slide around the curve? No, the star is stationary. The star is stationary, and the ring spins. So you got this. and the star does not move. And like I said, I don't have any wax on mine. I wished I would have had a little bit of wax to put on there. BR 549 Junior samples. I know Junior. I know who Junior is for his 14-year run cast member television show Hee Haw. I remember Hee Haw and I remember Junior, but I don't remember BR 5. That one's a little bit before my time. But it's funny you mentioned Hee Haw. The one cross I've got in here that I've almost got finished is going to Kenny. I just went completely blank on his name. He don't know it yet, so y'all don't tell him. His father was on Hee Haw, and Kenny was my youth pastor. And anyway, so there's a tie-in. Hey, y'all mentioned Hee Haw, and I'm actually sending a piece to the son of one of the Hee Haw comedians. Tell him about putting the star. Yeah, got. That's what I was doing. You might have been. Yeah. Never mind. Okay. Maybe clamp the date ring down first, then the assembly. And I think I might have actually. I put the star together first. Then I glue the bottom and the base together because those you can align those with the tabs that are going to stick into the base. So those, and in addition to many other points, and I'm actually going to assemble one in a second. So I don't want to explain a whole lot because I'm going to be showing you and explaining you. But I put the base together, and that's got that great big old cradle for the ring to sit in. So now, and then I clamp that together so it's nice, and those two pieces are staying together. Then I laid the ring in there, and then I took the assembled star and placed it over the ring using the points as registration marks and my engraved lines to get that position just right. And then you're able to make sure there's some free play and movement in there before everything gets too dry. BR 549 was the show's yeah, that was way back when they had city codes and yeah, talking about the phone numbers. Okay, doke, gotcha. Okay, all right, mark this. Ding, 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 ding. All right, now let's look at the design, the dates, and what I did, and what I'm starting to do, because a lot of times, a lot of the designs I use, I might have a font that you don't have, and LightBurn will do this automatically. If you have never downloaded a file from me and you go to open it, you get a warning that says, "Sweet holiday font not found." And if you open it up, import it anyway, LightBurn will convert that font to an image. It'll convert it to a path, rather, not an image, but a path. So it is no longer text that you can edit without just having to remove it and replace it all. And because I use some fonts here that you may not have, one was Juice something, I think, and the other one was Sweet Holiday. I went ahead and converted everything to a path, then saved it and uploaded it to the website. So when you download it, you won't get any warnings about the text. But because of that, you cannot edit the days until Christmas by just clicking on the font and going over there and changing stuff up. You'd have to delete it and redo it yourself, which is not that big of a deal. If you don't know how to do that by now, you definitely don't want to be tackling this because that's simple. But redoing this ring is not necessarily so simple. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to grab that, say Control-D, duplicate it, group that, send it to the bottom corner, then ungroup it all. Everything is now ungrouped. And you can see here, I've got the numbers 1 through 24. but that's not how I designed it. And that's not how I'm getting ready to show you how to redesign it if you want to have 1 through 25. If you want 1 through 25 in here instead of the 1 through 24, you can select that entire thing. Don't grab your toolpath. I've just selected the 2 rings and all of the black letters. Now I'm holding control. Before I do that, got the cart in front of the horse for just a second. To keep my placement exactly where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and make me a toolpath and put it over the number 1. So I know exactly where that number 1 is spaced in between those 2 rings, and I don't have to fidget around with getting it placed just right, because I've already done that. And I can click on this number 1 and look up here and see, well, it's 15.1 millimeters. I'm not going to worry about the width of it, but I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select my T2. Actually, what I'm going to select the T1 toolpath, because I have things on the T2 toolpath. I didn't mean to change that. Put that back. I'm going to select the T1 toolpath. I'm going to draw me a rectangle, and I'm going to tell that rectangle to be 15 millimeters tall. And then I'm going to hold my shift button and put it directly over that 1. So that is top dead center for that dial, and it's positioned between the rings where I want them to be. So now I can come over here and draw from left to right around that entire piece, then hold my control button and select from right to left the 2 red layers, and hold my control still and grab that toolpath. Now the only thing that's selected are the black numbers, and hit the delete button. All those just went away. But I've still got my rings, and I've still got my positioned toolpath for placement. Now we're going to work with variable text, and we're going to create 25 spaces. So we got 25 days. And if you haven't worked with variable text, it can be a little bit intimidating at first, but it's really, really, really simple. First thing, if you don't have your variable text tab over here or down here, come up here to your window menu and come down to the very bottom, and you'll see a variable text menu. Turn that on, and when you do, you'll see a menu that looks like this. This is your variable text controls, and my logo's in the way. So I'm actually going to bring this down here and out of the way so you can see it for a second. All of these are your variable text controls, and we're only going to use a couple of these features right now. But here you can see you can actually import CSV files for variable text. Variable text is a very, very handy tool. So I'm going to dock that back over there for right now. But to use variable text, you need to come in here with your select your text tool and type in, if you're going to do a 2-digit number, then you need to use 2 Ds, 3-digit number, 3 Ds, 4 Ds, and so on and so forth. We're doing 1 through 25, so we're going to need at least a 2-digit number, and we're going to use the lowercase d as in David, and I need 2 of those. So I'm doing 2 lowercase d's. And you can select whatever font you want those numbers to show up in. And I'm going to do, was it Cambria? Oh, there it is. We'll do that one. All right. Put it on the black layer. And I'm going to set the height to 15 millimeters. Because I didn't have my aspect ratio locked. Lock the aspect ratio, 15 millimeters. Now, that is the size that it was before. I can hold my shift button, select that toolpath, and bullseye it, and it'll put it where I need it to be. Now select anywhere to deselect those, because right now you have both the toolpath and the double D selected. So deselect, now select that toolpath and delete it. Get rid of that. Now that that's gone, so select the double Ds. And now we need to tell LightBurn that this is going to be variable text. In order to do that, we've got to come up here to our, all of this up here, where your font, you can select your font, your size of your font, bold, italics, all this. But over here, horizontal spacing and vertical spacing, These are your alignments for your text. All of this is text related. Well, right here where it says normal, that's what you're using 99.9% of the time. But here we want variable text, and we want these to be numbers. So I click on that, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to select serial number. Serial number is what we want for this particular application. Now with that selected, I've changed the serial number, and now I need to change my offset to 1. That's going to be the number that I start with, and it's going to offset the count by 1. So to count 1 through 25. If I left that at a 0 and I did 25 copies, it'd be 0 through 24. So making that a 1 will start me with a 1. I've still got my text selected. I'm going to hold my shift key and select this circle and come down here to circular array. And I want to do 25 copies, starting at 0, ending at 360. And you want to make sure that you rotate your copies, because if you don't, then your numbers are not going to be lining up whenever you rotate your dial. So rotate your copies. Do not group your results. Don't worry about selecting your results, and say OK. Now you've got that there. You're like, OK, well, that's neat. But where are my numbers at? Well, now that you've got your variable text tool, or we'll bring it over here, get out from underneath that banner and zoom out a little bit so we can see that there. Bring this over here. With that variable text selected, or I'm selected, it's just on the toolpath. If I hit my test button right here in the variable text menu, it will show you what those texts are going to look like. And actually that Cambria doesn't look that great because it's really bunched up. And also the vertical spacing could be made a little bit smaller, but instead I'm going to say close. I'm going to select, and actually we'll select the entire thing just like before. Come up here, hold control, deselect that, and Cambria, let's change it to something that I know is thin. We'll do, no, come on down. Get on down the road. Looking for something thin. That was thin. Where'd it go? There. We'll see what that looks like. And variable text. Did I close it? Yeah, I closed it instead of moving it. Window, variable text, and test. And that already looks better. And it's going to be inside the star, so that's not going to be an issue. But there's 1 through 25. But I don't want 25. I want to put that Santa Claus up there. So he had a Santa Claus. I don't. I've got a snowman. Let me park this back. There we go. And I'm going to come over here and select those. And I'm going to delete it. Now, how many ways are there to do things in LightBurn? There's always another way to do things. You could take your graphic image, your artwork, bring it in there, and then try and rotate it and get it kind of lined up with where it's positioned right with that 25. You could even do Control-2 and rotate, and even possibly even find use the measuring tool, where I showed you guys the other day how you can see the angle with the measuring tool. You could use the measuring tool to find the angle, and you rotate the image that way. That's going to require math. That's going to require a little bit of time and thought. So without even thinking about any of it, I'm just going to come in here. That's the one I want gone. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. And instead, I don't have my Santa Claus, but I do have a snowman. And I'm going to come in here to my snow, get my snowman, bring him in here. Aspect ratio is locked. He needs to be 15 mil high. He's selected. I'm going to hold my shift button, select that one at the top, and do it top dead center. Then come up here and grab just the snowman, select that circle, and I'm going to do the circular array one more time. And created 25 of them. This time, I'm going to group the results. They're still rotating the objects, and say OK. And it's selected those results. Now, all of those are selected. Now, I'm 99% sure this is going to work. Those are selected and they're grouped. If you hit the ungroup button once, they're all still selected. So I'm holding control and I'm going to click on this little snowman. And by holding control, it will deselect him. The rest of the snowman are still selected. So I can just hit the delete button and they're all gone. So now he's lined up exactly oriented the way he needs to be. And I didn't have to do any math. I didn't have to blow a fuse trying to figure these things out. So there's always another way, but I like the KISS method. I like to keep it simple, stupid, and I can do that a whole lot faster than figuring it out, rotating it, tweaking it, and doing all that. So, all right, let's see here. All right, so that's how we customized the ring for Craig's Santa Claus. And I didn't tell you all this yet, but he and I had an appointment for 1 p.m. Sunday, which was yesterday, and today Monday. I tell you, I've had so much going on. Yeah, that was just yesterday. 1 p.m. yesterday, he and I met online in this online studio for me to show him what I had already done, and then I sent him the file, and he got it all, tested it out, put it together, and we finally ended our one-on-one live stream right at 11 o'clock p.m. We were almost online together for 12 hours straight. But it ended up with a really great project. He was the inspiration for it. What he's seen and I want to say, and I apologize if I told her I was going to mention her and bring up her site, but the stroke little brain things, and if I don't write them down, they're being and gone. But I think it was Vicky. I ain't sure. Do you remember, Craig? If you're still here, remember was her name Vicky? If not, if it wasn't, either way, correct me. Let me know and if you remember. All right, so we've modified the ring. I've showed you how all that stuff goes. I've already got one already all cut out and sitting in the laser, and I'll switch cameras. And we're going to put this thing together. And yeah, Vicky, yeah. Yeah, and I told him it was Mayo. I didn't realize we had a city that was called Mayo. I like Mayo on just about everything, but didn't realize there was a Mayo, Florida. All right, I want to look. Oh, before we go into the assembly part, I want to talk to you about and this is something that I don't normally do. I don't talk power and speed and settings because it's going to vary. In fact, it fluctuated with my settings didn't work exactly that well for Craig when he did his, but Craig is down there in Florida, right there near the Tampa area. So he's close to sea level. I'm up here in redneck hell in North Carolina, and it is, a higher altitude. I'm in the Piedmont. I'm not out near the coast. But that slight variation in altitude combined with different humidity levels and different things, even though he was using Freiler, I think he was using the same Baltic birch, but it might have been from a different batch, different humidities, different altitudes. His settings did not work. My settings did not work for him the way that mine didn't have the same result. I'm 99% sure he tweaked it a little bit. And for that reason, I don't like to say, hey, this is what I did and this is what you should do. So I'm going to share with you what I did. You might test it and I need to tweak it for your own. But not so much about the settings, the speed and power, but some of you have seen this. In fact, it was kind of funny that when Craig seen that truck at Vicky's booth, he was immediately reminded of my little farm truck with the stake bed and all that. And some of you have seen this, and I've got this in the farm package on the hobowithwood.com. I think I've got a larger version that's available. It's just a truck, but it's a scalable design. You can make it whatever size you want it to be. But this is the image that I used to create that. Along with the Christmas tree that's in the bed of the truck is part of my Christmas tree art library. So this was in my art library. The tree was in my art library. I was able to create the ring in a matter of just a couple of minutes. It was just a matter of figuring out the geometry and the placement of the star and getting the cutouts just right. But to get the stake bed, and I'm gonna focus on this stake bed so you can see this. That stake bed's got a unique pattern to it, so that it has, the resemblance of a wood grain. It just stands out. It's much different than the painted surface. Wrong way, Conway. There we go. And I want to show you how I did that. Come over here again. So there's the tool path, the T2 tool path, which is where everything is. And we get rid of this guy here now. Wrong one. Undo. Zoom in. We'll get rid of all of that. So now we have the T2 toolpath, which is the toolpath for the 300 by 300 material. So if you're using the Freiler or the premium Baltic birch that I recommend, and let's see here, comments, these banners. Do I have it? No, I don't. But hobowithwood.com/premium Baltic birch is the Freiler material that I really strongly recommend using. It's good, flat, really good stuff. But it's 300 by 300 millimeters, and that's what all of these tool paths are. So that's why when I'm working with the Rolly XW, I create a 300 by 300 tool path. I can select that whole thing, duplicate it, group it, send it to the corner, and now I'm ready to go cut. It's ready. I don't have to do anything. I can hit start and it's ready to go. But that's what the T2 toolpath is those guys. And then here on this, it's just giving you an image of where that other layer, which is here, the top layer, the truck, once it's glued together, this is where that's going to be. So if you're going to change this artwork, this tells you what space you have to work with. If you edit this Days Until Christmas in any way, you need to keep it in between this tree and that star. But those are your tool paths. And then you've got the black layer. And if you hold shift and click here, it'll show you, and right click, they'll flash. It'll show you everything on that layer. So right now I am holding the shift button and right click. Do I need to hold shift? No, you don't even have to hold shift. You hold shift to select it. So nothing is selected right now. Hold shift and left click that layer. It will select everything on that layer. And then if you right click on the layer, it'll make everything on that layer flash. So that might be something you ain't seen before. So the black layer is all of the text and all of the detail on the truck, the trees, and the tires. The 05 layer, oops, I double clicked it twice, opened it up. The 05 layer is just the stake bed. 01 is up there. There's your star flashing. That's where your engraving lines for your star. And then the red layer is my cut path. And then the 01 image is the photograph. In fact, just to clear it up, once you've seen it, if you don't want that on there, you can select it and delete it and get rid of it. And you can see there are 5 layers here for this design. If I open these up, when you import it, you're going to have the double alt layer with a multi-mode where I've got a fill mode and then a line after fill. Now, in order to get with the 10-watt diode laser, the Rolly XW, to get a really dark black finish with this premium Baltic birch, I was only running at 720 millimeters a minute and only 10% power. 10% power with a 10-watt diode. But at 720 millimeters a minute, it's just burning and give a really dark engraving. Then the line after fill is at the same speed and power. And all that's doing is, once it's done the engrave for the tire back and forth, once it finishes that engrave, it'll go around the inner and outer diameter of the tires and the 2 lines on the hubcaps, and just adds definition to that engraving. So that's the reason it shows multi when you open that up. And then we come on down to the 05 layer. Now, the 05 layer is the stake bed layer. The stake bed layer is, in order to get that really unique look to it, it's done in the settings. First, in order to keep it from looking like every other thing you've engraved, I changed the scan angle to 22 degrees. And right here is your scan angle. Typically, it's at 0. And when you run a crosshatch, it runs left to right, 0 degrees, and then runs on the Y, 90 degrees. So you get, a checkerboard look. And I didn't want it to look checkerboard. So I'm left it at crosshatch, and I did a scan angle of 22 degrees. And there's actually science behind it's actually 22 and a half degrees. The human eye that works good, which isn't mine because now I can't see you. The human eye, it finds it extremely difficult to see patterns when they're at 22 and a half degrees. That's what I've read. And so when I need to do something kind of unique and I don't want it to look like, oh, wow, look, that's an obvious checkerboard, or look, there's it, at first I thought, it was being the fact that it was half of 45 or whatever reason, it works. And it just, it doesn't jump out at you as like, oh, wow, look at that obvious pattern. You don't see the pattern at that angle. So 22 degrees is why I'm there. You can't do half degrees, so I did 22. But in order to create the spacing, and depending on the size or the area that you're doing the engraving on, your LPI or your line interval may change. And I'm going to show you how you can see that here in LightBurn without having to burn it in the wood and say, oh, that's not enough or that's too much. But this particular setting, I have a line interval of 1.5 millimeters, or the lines per inch, if you want to look at it that way, is 16.93 lines per inch. These are the same thing with two different ways of saying it. The line interval, it's 1.5 millimeters in between each line, or there's 16.93 lines in a linear inch. So now with those settings, I could actually, and to see, and if you may or may not be aware of this, if I select, hold my shift button and select that layer and tell it to preview, you don't have anything on the work bed. It says no shapes are within the work area. If your shapes are not in the work area, you cannot see a preview. So if I select this thing, I'm going to say duplicate and send it to, actually group it first and send it to the center. Send it to the center. There we go. Now I'm going to ungroup it so I can grab just that toolpath and shift, grab that. Now look at the preview. You can see the size that pattern is going to create. You can see that right there before you send it to the laser. And if you're like, you know what, I want more than that. Well, so what? So go in there and change your line interval to 3 and say, okay, and preview. And you get a larger pattern. I wanted a little bit tighter. So I went with 1.5 millimeters or 1.5 millimeters in between each line, or 16.93, and preview. And there you go. Now, if it was a much, much larger area that you were engraving, then that might still be too tight, too small, and you might want to do 3. That's why I say play with that and use the preview to see what that outcome is going to generate before you send it to the laser and make sure that you think you're going to like it. You may look at it and say, you're not going to like it. You may look at it and say, I think I like that. And then when you see it, nah, I want to do it over something different. But you can eliminate the ones you won't like. And then back to the layers again before we start the assembly. The other layer is the 01 layer, which is just the simple line for registration marks for the star, and then the cut layer. And when I did the engraving for the stake bed, I did not want the stake bed to have the same darkness as the black tires. I wanted to have some contrast there. So I'm painting with the laser to have variance in color. So I grabbed my color palette that I did with my test piece and found that the color that I wanted to go with was 1,000 millimeters a minute and 10% power. So that's another huge reason for having these test pieces, because then you can literally use those like a painter's palette to figure out how to get variations in your engravings and add some contrast without having to do anything except change your powers and speed settings. All right, so that is explained in LightBurn. Is there anything that any questions or anybody about anything there having to do with the settings and the cross hatching, any of that stuff anybody got any questions about any of that before I start the assembly? Let me go back up here to my last bookmark. All right, there we go. Last bookmark. Yep, okay, there's Mayo, got that. Okay. Welcome, Andrew. Like and share, subscribe. Welcome to Hobo's World. Let's see. In fact, what's he say? Just new here. Looks like you have lots of great stuff to try out. Just new to laser, so we'll stick around for a bit if that's cool. Absolutely, everybody's welcome. Well, almost everybody. Let's see here. So, well, Dale, if you're your birthday dinner or happy birthday, congratulations. This was not supposed to be a live, Dale. I was going to have a video that I was going to record and put it in with the website for the downloads when this just not enough hours in a day, my friend. So here I am. Here we are. Impromptu live. Okay, good. Thank you, Craig. Craig's explaining that to Andrew about the exclamation points and the question marks. And also, if you see all those random numbers that people put out there, like Nipa threw up a 1, she's learned one new thing in this stream. So the guys you see out there putting up the larger numbers, that they're learning more and more, and we'll learn some more as we go along with this. Okay, done. All right, so no more questions that I didn't see. So that means I did a pretty good job explaining that stuff. All right, now I'm going to switch cameras, open this up, and we're going to put this one together. And I got a little bit of a surprise for you. And this was also, all of my motivation for this came from Craig. So if there's a problem or an issue or you're not happy with something, don't yell at me, yell at Craig. All right, so let's in fact, I got only because of the stuff that's been going on today, and I got family in from Michigan, and I'm just checking to see if any of these messages are urgent or not. Okay, that's done. That's done. I'm going to switch to here and switch to here. Make room for me over here. Get rid of my chair. Set this out the way. The microphone's behind me, but I'll speak louder, and I believe we'll be okay. And it's a little bit dark, but you can see what's going on. So we've got the backboard engraved, mark the alignment marks. I don't know how well that's going to show up on there. It's very, very light because I did not want that next to it. It doesn't need to be seen. The secondary piece that'll go there, and it's also the cradle. It's a little bit thin there, so you want to be careful when you're flopping it around that you don't break it. It's not that big of a deal if you do break it because you line it up here and line it up there, but you want to keep it intact. Our 3 layers of our base, there was our sign. And like I said, that will line up and those tabs are going to force it to be lined up perfectly and cover that hole up. And then the two tabs slots there in the front where the sign will go, and those will go together. But I'm going to work with my star, and am I missing part of my star? It's probably over here on my sanding table. Yep, there's that and that. I'm missing that lower half of the star. Let me grab my sanding table real quick. Ta-da. All right, now I'm going to be working with my Titebond and a little bit of super glue. But because I want this to be positioned perfectly, I'm first going to put a little Titebond on here. Just a little dab of do you. Well, you got to open it first. It won't come out with the lid closed. Golly. There we go. Now a little dab of do you. That's not a little dab. That's way too much. So we'll spread that out a little bit. I wanted to try and avoid any squeeze out. You can always wipe it up with a wet towel. So I've got the three corners of the star with a little bit of wood glue. I'm going to place that where it needs to be. I can use the points of the star for alignment, and that's why I recommend doing the assembly this way. And I got to squeeze out anyway. It's okay. It's what we got wet naps for and finger tips for. Trying to make sure I stay in camera. So I got to come up a little bit. And once I get this positioned exactly where I want it to be and need it to be, and I've got my alignment exactly spot on, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of super glue and a little bit of accelerant. But here, and I want to try and keep as much of my fingers as I can off the front surface. I don't want to get a lot of glue up there in the front. And that's looking pretty good. Every time you wipe that caramelized edge and you touch the front, you'll leave a print. That's looking good. And like I said, you really want to take time with this and make sure it's just not pretty good, but perfect. Because that angle is where that dial is going to rotate along with this curvature down here. So that's got to be glued up just right. I just moved it by showing you that. And that's why I'm going to put super glue on it and accelerant. Line that up. That's looking good. Get out my Shea glue. I don't want to put anything down here that's going to interfere with the rotation, but I can put it right in here. And I'm going to use my pick to smear it around a little bit. And then my accelerant, a little spray. And that should be cemented up and good and tight. I ain't got to worry about that one now. Like I said, this part is really the most tedious part of the assembly. Getting this star together first and getting it aligned properly. So another little dab. Did I close it again? Nope. There we go. Little dab. Little dab. and get that one just right. Take your time and get it where it needs to be, because this, and Craig can tell you, this is the make or break alignment piece on this entire piece. You get it off and it can be a problem. And I would not recommend doing your super glue initially, because unless you're just really, really good, it can set up before you get it where you want it. And I moved it when I picked it up. So using this, the wood glue to help hold it, start it, and then super glue it. Just a little dab and accelerant. And there it is. And I don't want to spray it on my bed, so I'm taking it off camera for a second. There we go. Now that star is assembled with the groove on the back side for my ring. So I'm going to set that out the way. Put a lid on my CA glue. Got a couple of clamps. Again, be careful handling this piece, because it is fragile there in the middle. And just spreading that around so I have less tendency for that one to squeeze out and ooze out of there. Distributed evenly across the face of that. And then I can use those tabs to help me line that up. And that's what I'm focusing on, is those two corners and these two corners, because these have got to be spot on. Because if those aren't lined up just right, when you go to put it in your base, you might have a little bit of a trouble. But if you do a little bit of sandpaper, you can make it fit. All right, so once that's done and lined up just right, because I'm not using CA glue on these, you want to be careful when you put your clamps on that you don't squeeze it out of alignment. And then once you got the clamps on it, double check that and make sure those tabs are still lined up and looking good. And they do. All right. So now that's done and clamped up. And with me having my clamps like that, I've also got it at almost a 45. So my ring will sit right there where I need it to. My star is already glued up and I've got the groove in the back side. I just need to place it right there, put my glue on it, and not Chicago Bob, but Bob's your uncle. That is done, and that will spin freely in here. Now, what I would recommend doing before you glue that up is take your sandpaper, and I would not overly sand this. I would not make it. I like my caramelized edge inside the ring, but I'd take just a little 320 sandpaper and lightly hit the inner diameter of this circle just to make sure it's good and smooth and get rid of some of the caramelization, the surface, any surface residue that might make it sticky. And like I said, I don't want it gone. I just want to clean it up a little bit. And then I'm also going to take my star and I probably should have done this before I glued it up. On the inner edge right there where there's a corner there, and I should probably, or you could, let's see here. You could go into the file, the design, and where there's a sharp corner right here where that glues up, maybe round that off a little bit so that it's not a hard corner that where the wheel has to hit it. But I'm going to do that with sandpaper here. And it's not going to take a lot, just a little. And it's only on that second layer. There. And one more here. And I'm not worried about the top because the top is not going to cause much interference. It's where the gravity is going to have that ring sitting down on there that could possibly, the sharp corner could possibly be an issue. And I'll show you how easy that is to modify in the file. So we're going to put that ring back in place. I'm going to bring her over here. I want to make sure you guys can see, but I need to see this really well. I'm going to apply a little glue on the 3 points here and then the 2 down here at the bottom. I'm not going to be crazy with it, but you want it to be secure. But you need to be careful that you don't have squeeze out that comes out down into the area that your wheel needs to rotate. So be careful of getting any glue close to this edge. So focus up here at the top point and at the bottom 2 points. And there's going to be squeeze out on this. So, and I'm probably going to do some super glue once I get it in place, but I'm not going to do it initially. So with that glued up like that, I'm going to get the glue off my fingertips so I can track caramel all over the front face of my star. And lay that right in there. Just so. Check my alignment registration points. That looks good. Oh, I wiped it and moved it. And now once I know that that's right, I'm going to grab another clamp. And very carefully, and I just bumped it and moved it again. There we go. That looks good. Clamp that good and tight. And that's holding that top, and I'm holding the clamp weight too, and check and make sure. Oh, it's not tight, not glued up yet. Not enough. You don't want it to glue up and then find out later you can't spin it. But that's going to, and wax. There we go. There we go. If you had some wax to wax it, it would definitely put some wax on the wood surfaces where they meet. That would help you immensely. Oh, come on, baby. I need to get my super glue and spray. All right. Glue, glue, glue. And my accelerant. I'm going to take this off and away from my rollie and spray the accelerant. All right. Now I'm going to put the base together pretty quick. And I'm actually going to put my chair back. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Switch cameras again. And look for any comments from the peanut gallery. Any criticisms, jokes, poking fun at the bear. Let's see here. Switch. All right. There's my mark. Okay. Is it possible to do it? Is it possible to do wood grain like the cabin door? Yeah, you could do wood grain. But because this is so small, you'd see the wood grain on the lower part of the stake bed, but you wouldn't notice it on the vertical stakes because they're not much more than about 1.5 millimeters or 2 millimeters. So you wouldn't see the wood grain. I've obviously I've got the wood grain patterns, but this is too small of an area. But you could try it. If you've got the cabin, then you've got the wood grain patterns in the cabin. You can just, cut that out and try it. But it's too narrow. I thought about that, but because it is so narrow, the crosshatch works okay. As always, Steve, you keep outdoing yourself. Well, thank you. But this is not me. This is not my design. This is not my concept. It's my design. It's 100% my design, but it's not my concept. I just re-engineered something that Craig's seen. And did it do it the way he's doing it, y'all. Yeah, Craig did it a little bit differently. Now his works. He didn't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He was able to salvage it and get it to work, but he struggled a little bit. But he got it going. Spring clamps would be great to hold the glued up parts. Yeah, and I got my clamps. Yep. Yeah. Fingernail file works great too. Yep. For light sanding and rounding off the corners. No. The all black is I've come straight in from another funeral, guys, and this was supposed to be a video. In fact, I recorded half the video earlier today. And then I was actually a pallbearer at this funeral, and I ended up skipping the meals with the family after, so I can get back here and at least get this done, because this design is the countdown to Christmas, and we're 2 days into December already. So I wanted this available to you guys and how to put it together as soon as possible. And so I just come straight in and started doing it. and went live instead of trying to record it. Okay. Yeah, no, but you can always watch the replay. Okay, so now while that's drying up a little bit, I am just going to glue this base up. This is something you don't need to see on camera because it's real simple. I'm just going to, glue 3 layers up with the nice even spacing away from each other. These two have got to line up perfectly with the tabs, and because the slots, and because the slots are there, you've got registration points, easy to line up, no big deal. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'm going to show you the piece de resistance for this piece that we're going to assemble here on the live stream. So I need my wood glue. And I need to mark this spot. Mark. So, and when you've got pieces like this, this was a factor when I went to cut this out. This Baltic birch is really, really good stuff. There was a couple of pieces in this one that had some little bitty knots. Not a great big deal, but this is the very top piece, and there's a little knot right there at my finger. Well, I'm just going to glue that side up and hide the knot. So pay attention to little things like that before you start applying glue, and maybe you can hide some imperfections and make your finished piece look as good as possible. And here, this top piece is going on this piece with the hole. So instead of applying my glue to the top piece, because there's going to be a void it's going to go to, I'll take this piece, and I know where the glue needs to be. So I don't waste any glue or put glue in areas that aren't going to do anything. So has anybody got all of their Christmas shopping done yet? Or how many of you have failed to even start? I don't Christmas shop. Ain't nobody really, except my dog. I like my dog enough that I might buy her a Christmas present. But when I was growing up as a child, my parents were split by the time I was in the 4th grade or 5th grade. And whenever we'd go over to my father's, it was Christmas time, he didn't Christmas shop either. He waited to Christmas Eve when we were with him, and we went out at Christmas Eve early and got all the stuff that was on sale. But last minute, go grab it cheap or cheaper. And I'm holding this here. John says he got all his Christmas shopping done. Hats off to you, Sharon. I failed to start, but I've got 3 out of 5 list. This wood's got a little bit of tension in the wood, so I'm holding the glue. My clamps are over. Well, actually, you know what? I got a clamp available. Where's my clamp at? Sitting on it? Nope, it's over there in the rolly. And if you don't have any clamps, I started out not able to afford clamps. On the Hobo with Wood website, there is a free download with some clamps you can make yourself that work with rubber bands, and you can cut them out of your scrap material. And I've got a few of those around here too. But I'm looking for my other. I've got a fourth. There it is. It's underneath my tape. And that reminds me, I just had to move my postage scales. You guys bought up every one of the crystal hearts that I had in stock. I've got more coming that will be here tomorrow. And I'll be able to fill all of the orders. Because this is, I think the next shipment coming in, I think I've got, depending on what they had available coming to me on this load, they'll either be 50 or 100. So I'll have, if you were wanting any of those hearts, I received an email, I think from John, said he wanted some. I will have plenty of them tomorrow. Like I said, I'll either have 50 or 100 of them. So all orders can and will be filled as of tomorrow. So that's clamped up. Let that sit for a second. The wifey does all the Christmas shopping on Amazon Prime. Now, I tell you what, I don't know, as a child growing up, we had, it wasn't KB Toys here in North Carolina to begin with. And it wasn't Toys R Us to begin with. There was another toy shop, big one. Can't remember what it was now, but it was the big toy store in the mall. And that was half the fun, was going in the toy store. Just maybe see something you didn't know you wanted. So I don't know that I would. And growing up now, it's got to be different. Got to be. I don't, because we don't even have a local Toys R Us or anything anymore. Everything's online. But having the ability to create a shopping list on Amazon that you can share with other friends and the family, and people can just go say, okay, well, that's what he wants. That's what he wants. And they can just then hit a button and buy it without having to go anywhere to get it, and then have it come in gift wrapped and ready to go out as a present. Convenience is great, but you miss all that going to the mall, the ice skating rink, and growing up, the only Arby's we had was all the way over in Charlotte at the Eastland Mall, and they have an indoor skating rink. So I'd get my only roast beef sandwich of the year, ice skating, maybe go see a movie. You wouldn't have all that just shopping on Amazon. All right, so that should be good. Good enough for right now to get the third layer on here. So I'm actually just applying glue only to the middle layer. I glued it to the top layer for the sandwich top. Now apply it to this layer to put the bottom piece on. That way I'm only applying glue in the areas that I know it needs to go in, and avoiding any excess or any squeeze out. Do. Put a little dab there, a little dab there. Oh, you know what? And while we're not going to make you just watch me and watch glue dry. I'm going to show you the precision of the Rolly. For those who have the Rolly, you're like, okay, well, that's cool. Maybe you've done this, maybe you haven't. But the precision of the Rolly is like nothing that I've seen in the lasers. In fact, talking with Greg yesterday, I had not realized I've got a big old 60-watt CO2 MON port over there. And that 60-watt CO2 MON port takes up the entire corner of the room. And the workspace on it is the same thing as this desktop XW Rolly. I have the same workspace on that Rolly that I do as a 60-watt CO2. So, and I'm just eyeballing this. I did not put any marks on it for alignment's sake. Clamp this up, but I'm going to show you a quick video, because what I did, and I'm going to show you this first, because when I show you the video, it's going to give it away. And Craig inspired this too, because the first piece I did, I showed you early, it's all natural. He had to go and outdo me. He had to go and one-up me. And he painted his. And I'm like, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. And he did something else. Yeah, I've got the sign in the design, the sign that sits down on the front layer here. So that's 3 layers glued up and clamped up. We'll let that sit for just a second. And I'm going to show you this video and grab this again. So this was the first one I did and just did it. This is the first cut, first attempt. And hallelujah, it actually worked. The first one worked. I didn't have to go back in and modify and make changes. First, I got it right the first time. Don't happen often. But he also, like Sanford and Son, he put a name in the door and put Merry Christmas or something. That 2024 did some other stuff on the sign down here. So he gonna one up me. Won't make me look bad. So on this one, for this assembly video, I decided to paint it. John's Toy and Hobby. Yes, Ed, that's the one. John's Toy and Hobby Shop in the East Ridge Mall. And love going to that place. I stayed away from it half the time of the year just because I knew I wasn't going to get anything anyway. And then I could spend the entire night in there at Christmas time. So anyway, I decided to paint this version. And most of the little farm trucks you see images of and the ones you buy, they're the old red farm trucks. But I didn't want to have this one pristine. I wanted to do some wear and tear and some patina on it and make it look a little worn. And in addition to that, I wanted the stake bed to pop. I didn't, on this one, I painted the entire piece of wood, then put it on the laser, and it looked okay. You've got a variation there, and it looks like it's older wood. It looks brown instead of red, and that's from the smoke and the burning of the material and staining the paint as it burned and engraved. But I wanted this truck to have a stake bed that really popped out in spite of the worn old truck. So to do that, what I did is I took the raw material, took the 300 by 300 material, put it on the laser bed, and had the laser do an outline engraving of just the stake bed. Just a very light engraving, mark that area. Then I took my tape and masked that area off so it stayed all natural. Then I go to my paint room and just using my spray bomb, painted the lower half portion of it red, and then painted the area where the tree is going to be green. And they kind of overlap a little bit. And what colors red and green make? Bonus points for anybody can tell me without going to Google. So that worked out. And then I had the mask area over where my stake bed's going to be. Let's see what's Sharon saying here. She's yelling at me. A quick tip for gluing the bases: put the top piece of put the tabs. Yeah, but right now because it's over there gluing up, I didn't want to put my tabs in because I wanted it to dry good. But yeah, and if I wasn't doing this live stream, I would probably do just that. And yes, Ed, red and green make brown. And what color does brown look like, or what's rust look like on old trucks? And so the brown discoloration where the two paints kind of overlapped added to that patina look. And so I'm like, okay, that works. So I sprayed it, the green, sprayed the red. Then I came back to the laser and I engraved all the detail of the truck, cut out the entire piece, cut out, that whole front layer, cut out the wheels and the hubcaps. All that was all painted red and engraved through the red paint and left, the red hubcaps and the red fenders and then the red truck and the green tree. But I had tape, and you'll see it in a second. I'm going to show you this video. I had tape that entire stake bed off. And that caused me to have one little area of the tree that I couldn't get to, but that was easy to fix. But now I've got a loose piece that I need to go back to the laser. I take it off the laser. I took all my masking off, got everything checked out, looks the way I want it to. Now I need to do the detail for my stake bed. And I don't know. You might be able to, if you are an engineer and you've rigged up something really nice with your laser, your honeycomb is locked in place, your laser's locked in place, and nothing's moving anywhere, and you have a very precise machine that's able to go out and start and go out and start and come to the same place every time, you might could do this, but I doubt it. But if you've got a Rolly, you can do this every time. So let's see here. Go to here and here. I thought I had this pulled up, but it's not a biggie. Finished video, CC3. Open that up. I don't want to play it yet. No, that's not going to work. You devil. CC2. No, that's not going to work either. This will work. We'll do it this way. There's always another way. Go away with that. I'm bringing up my editing software because this is something you almost have to see to believe. Opening that up. Loading, loading, loading. Come on now. What are you doing to me? Is that it? Yep, that's it. All right, so now I want to make that full screen. This was not the way I intended to do this, but for whatever reason, it's not wanting to play for me in the other format. Go back here to the edit. There we go. All right, and now, so still not quite full screen, but when I share it with you, you should be able to see this. Okay, done, done, done. Share that screen, share. And is that full screen? Nope, that's frame. Is that full screen? Nope, that's transform. All right, well, either way, we're going to pull this back. So, and I've got this, I think I had it fast forwarded. If not, so there is the base of the truck without the fenders and the tires on there. And I've painted it, but then I've also sanded it and took a lot of the paint off of it to show some wear and tear. And you've got the rusted roof up there from the green and the red where they bled into one another. But there it is, all natural. And I'm like, okay, now I need to take this off of my workbench and go back to the laser with it and put the detail of the stake bed on there. So I lay it back into the cutout and just slide it in position in the Rolly. And hit start. And yeah, this is sped up. So it's a little herky jerky, but there, I come down there. It puts that right exactly where it needs to be. And keep in mind, those stakes, like I said, they're only about 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters, maybe 3, but they're very, very, very thin. And it's doing crosshatch 22 degrees. And it's putting it exactly where it's at. And I had that piece off the laser, sanded it, cleaned it up, did all kinds of things to it, and then put it right back in the laser and hit start. And the Rolly XW went exactly back to the exact same spot and created that look to that stake bed. And boys and girls, I'm telling you, I have not been able to do something like that with any of the other lasers I've ever worked with. So I got my link scrolling there at the bottom. If you want to work with the best laser on the market, go out there and grab you up a Rolly. And if you want to do larger products, get you the Rolly XW if it's available. And then a line after fill to give it a defined look. Didn't need it around there, but I did on that outer perimeter. And then I slowed it down there. And I've got that one little bare spot that I had to go back in and add some more paint to, but not a big deal because that was originally under the mask area. But is that not cool? How many of you that do not own a Rolly have a laser that you can do that with? Does anybody else feel confident enough in their laser that they can pick their piece up, go in, sand it, do all kinds of stuff with it, and then go back and lay it right back on the laser and get a millimeter and a half area re-engraved? So this is the final version of the truck with the wear and tear, and I put hobo wood there, and let me get the focus on here. There we go. And you got the wood grain, the cross hatching going on. There we go. The light's too bright in here, and I've got detail in the tree. I used 3 different colors of green in the tree to give it all those different variations, and the wear and tear on the fenders and the paint. And this piece, because it does not have the tabs on it, is just going to glue up on the flat surface and sit right down on the base. All right, let's see here. Chicago Bob says, I'm proud owner of the MK10. Well, I'm tell you what, the 10 watt is what I use to do this entire project with. It is awesome, 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 awesome. It says, hope to get a rolling next fall. Be sure and use my link when you do, Ed. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, let's set this guy out of the way. And let's grab the base. I feel good. We can take the clamps off for right now. We're going to use them again in a minute. And we'll do a little wood glue. And you don't need to see me putting glue on. You know how to put glue on. Just spread it out a little bit with my fancy glue spreader. It's a very, very expensive one. You guys don't have one like it, because mine's unique and yours is too. And getting it off my fingers so I can pick up my painted finished piece. And then I've just got to position this piece over those cutouts for the tires. The tabs will be proud. And I've also got the little indentations around the ends of the stake bed and the curve of the hood. So there's lots of places of you for alignment purposes to get that lined up. Once I got that one good, I'm going to put a clamp on there. But the real challenge, not even a challenge, the potential headache is that star. Ugh. And I've also got my, and this is something I was totally shocked. Again, Craig did it first. The snowflakes, by painting those white and putting just the white snowflakes on the natural background there, they really jump off of the board. And I've got those right here. In fact, here. And I did 3 of them again. There's only 2 in the design, but and this time I actually did do 1 duplicate at various sizes, and this time I am going to use my super glue. And these are just randomly placed where I think they'll look good. Where did I leave my super glue? I left it up yonder. A little dab will do you. And I'm doing a little dab on 5 or 6 spots on this snowflake. And this is strictly, what do you feel like looks good? What looks good to you? It's your piece, your design. I'll put that one right there. Hold it for, be careful with the white paint. If you paint it, be careful. You will, if you've got any black on your fingers, you'll leave a permanent mark on it, and you're going to be going, dang it. Then you have to get you a white paint pen and cover up all your fingerprints. Some of you might not be saying dang it. And then I've got my second snowflake. A little dab do you. And like I said, this design is and has been live on hobowithwood.com since yesterday. But after Craig's little snafu, we said, yeah, we better make a video putting it together. And like I said, this was supposed to be live, but just didn't have time today. Just didn't have time. Not enough hours. And because this is, like I said, it's a dated design. I mean, there's only so many days that you can use it. And here come my dog come running in here. She's running with a purpose, which tells me she needs to go. I'm going to put my last snowflake on here. There we go. Now, I hear you. I'm going to have to step out and let her do her thing. But see how much that added to it? Is that not cool? And I said, just painted those white and glued them on the surface. The days until Christmas engraved into the material instead of doing her cutout pieces. I'm going to set this over here and let it dry for just a second with my clamps holding it. I'm going to have to go open my front door because she has come at me 4 times now. If I don't let her out, she's going to go in the floor. I'll be right back. Sorry, guys. This way. All right, so any of you local yahoos, I got the door of the house standing wide open right now. If you, I can't keep you out if you can't show up right now. All right. Let's see here. What is your link? My link is scrolling right at the bottom there, V. hobowithwood.com/Rolly. Well, yes and no. I wouldn't know. In fact, I would say no. 90% of it was not done by me by putting it back into the wasteboard, because that's irrelevant if the machine didn't have the precision that it's got. So I wouldn't say 90% of it. But you are right that the waste material was absolutely necessary. But using my X-Full or my Creality or any of the rest of them, I don't have another diode laser that has the waste or the honeycomb in a fixed position and I don't have another, and a lot of the lasers don't even have homing switches. And without the homing switches, the X-Full, it would go to home position, and then it would have to meet resistance from the stepper motors for it to stop, because it didn't have a stop switch. It didn't have a limit switch. So it'd home and slam into the side rail and then bounce around and come to a stop. And that'd do that in the X and Y. So every time you send it to home, ain't no telling where it's going to finally come to rest at. It's close in the close proximity, but you would never be able to replicate and send back out because you're going to be sending out from a different position. It might be a millimeter difference from one time to the next or less, but when you're trying to repeat engraving in an area that's only 1.5 millimeters thick, you couldn't do that with that X-Full. No way, no how. So only because of the built-in fixed position of the honeycomb bed was I able to put that waste material right back into the exact same spot. And something else that I do that increases the precision of the Rolly. The Rolly does have limit switches, so it could go back to the same spot every time. But even with the limit switches, it might have a micromillimeter or less, that because they have tolerances, the acceptable tolerances, for where it's going to be homed at. It might be slightly off, but to avoid that completely, when I start any job, especially if I'm going to be doing what I've done here, where I'm doing a layer, doing something else, I might have to take it off and go back to the laser, take it off, go back to the laser. I do not rehome the laser between starting and finishing the job. I home the laser, frame my material, make sure everything's going to work right, then send it out, do whatever part of the job I'm going to do, and then I have a set finish position within the Rolly. In fact, where the module's sitting at right now is its finished position, which is up and away back toward the center of the machine. That way it clears my material and allows me to lift it off and do what I need to with it. Then I can go right back to the honeycomb in the exact same spot. And then I send the laser out from that spot. Because that way Rolly knows it went to what it perceived as whatever 350 by 350, whatever it is. It went to that spot. And now when it comes back to do over again, it's going back to the exact same spot that it cut from because it never reset. So I don't rehome it in between the different parts of the job. I never rehome it until I'm finished with that piece of that material, and then I'll home it and then start the next piece. So no, I wouldn't say that that was a fair statement, that it was 90% of it was because of the waste material. Couldn't have done it without it, but I think it was probably realistically maybe 10% of the reason it was so precise. Questions and comments. Comment. I hope you had a lovely, blessed Thanksgiving. And same to you. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I hope you're going to have a good Christmas. You get to see the family you want to and avoid the ones you don't. I have 5 lasers, 1 fiber. I really want a fiber. That's what Craig and I were talking about. I really want a fiber. Got a fiber, the Rolly MK2, and 3 CO2s. Yeah, I'm guessing you must be doing, to have 3 CO2s. I'm guessing you do a lot of production work. I'm guessing you do a lot of production work, or you're really into the craft fairs and craft shows, and you need to be able to produce a lot with a minimum amount of time. Let's see here. Questions. Oh, come to Papa. Nope, nothing. All right. 3.5 minutes to switch to the rotary and ready to go. Not sure. Okay, wait a minute. Here we go. Ever since I've had the Rolly, I can't believe I ever had any success with my old machine. Yet, I tell you what, though, for everybody out there who does not have a Rolly, but you're getting good quality, because you can get good work out of a lesser quality laser. I did, and I have. That's not a bad thing. And I've actually made the comment before that maybe this shouldn't be your first machine. Get you one of those lesser machines without the limit switches, or with no fixed honeycomb. and learn how to overcome the limitations of that machine, that will make you a better laserologist. And then once you get into something like this, man, it's like sitting in the back seat and being chauffeured around. This thing does all the work for you. But if you have a problem, you know how to overcome it and how to figure it out. But if this is, and I'm not saying this shouldn't be your first machine, but for people who get this as their first machine and now they've got to overcome the learning curve of lasering in general, when they have roadblocks and want to blame it on the machine, when it's their inexperience and lack of knowledge and not the machine, and they start getting online and, oh, I can't believe this did that, this did that. Well, it wasn't the machine's fault. It wasn't what the machine did. I could never have replicated a cut after pulling it down from the bed. Yeah, I could never have done that with any other machine. When I seen that done by a fellow on another channel before I got mine, I like to swallow my tongue. I was, oh, golly. He picked that up off the work bed and went right back to it to finish, because it didn't cut all the way out. That's what I seen the first time it did that. He did a cut and it didn't do a drop, and he put it right back on the laser. And I think he did it on purpose just to show the ability. And it hit that out and sent it back out. And it ran a cut right back around that same thing and did a clean cut. I did. If I had falsies, I'd have swallowed them. I was like, good Lord, I can't believe that it did that. That was mind blowing. Oh, yeah. Good point. Greg says, and this is wise, and I haven't been doing it, but I'm that's because I'm being cocky. And I also didn't put any wax on this one again, and I should have. But I'm gonna take my clamps off now, because having the clamps on it also might be putting a little extra tension on it and putting anything in a bind. But Craig's saying, good idea to spin this thing while it's drying up and make sure everything's, you don't have any excess glue or any squeeze outs getting in places causing an issue. And now, because I don't have it on the base, I'm having to squeeze it between my knees and hold it in place. And it's turning nice and free. It would do better if I had some wax, but it's working. It's working good. All right, let's get Craig off of here. Connie says, I think it builds character and allows you to reach a higher potential starting with lesser. And I concur with you. I do. And the you have the ability in LightBurn to set up a finish position with any laser. You program that into LightBurn, set up a finish position. So when it completes a job you've sent to the laser, instead of going home, it goes out and parks out here in the middle or at the back of your machine, wherever you want it to be. And that way you can go back and go back and go back, and you can repeat. If you haven't moved your material, you can repeat that exact same spot every time. But if you send it to a home on a machine that has a questionable homing ability, starting from a finished position is your better bet. And believe it or not, that's something that I picked up from a tip from watching Clack, and because he was really heavy in X-Fool for a while, and he's still a big believer in it. He still likes them, but I don't. I hate them. I hate them. All right. Now, this should be a very snug fit intentionally, but because I'm going through 2 layers and I've got 2 layers here that are glued up, if those are off by a micromillimeter, and if these are off by a micromillimeter, they're going to be even snugger than you want them to be. That's when you use that good old sandpaper. And that's my case here. I am a little bit snug. So I'm going to grab my sandpaper, and all I'm going to do is just on the tabs, I'm going to round those corners off a little bit and round them over a little bit so that it can slide into those slots much easier. And this is just 320 sandpaper, but I would rather sand it to fit than it be loose. And take the corners off of the bottom, take the corners off of the sides, kind of round it over a little bit so it can slide together. Mo better. Not sure what you're talking about, Ed. Mine are usually idiot operator error. And long comment from Jeep. Let's see. Greatest thing I did for the MK2 was I made a jumper for the rotary to the board so that the connection to the board is always connected, so you're not having to unplug. Yeah, and if you're doing a lot with the rotary, I could see where that would be advantageous. I don't do a lot of rotary. I've been testing some pieces that Scott sent me to help dial in the settings, but I'd rather do this. I'd rather recreate or create items like this. With the rotary, you're not really creating anything. You're just burning an image on something. You can make some pretty stuff and nice stuff, but I don't feel like you're really creating anything. Let's see. Done. A little bit more sanding. I feel like this is one of those videos you're hanging around to watch paint dry. And I see this one's got a little bit of an alignment issue, but it's the one that I can fix with my sandpaper. But I'm noticing real quick that sanding birch plywood, wearing black shirts, they don't mix. Oh my goodness. All right, them two should work. And I wish I'm in this great. I'm in what was the sanctuary, so I'm in a very large room. But due to my limitations of electrical outlets, and I've actually got power supplies and drop cords running at places I shouldn't have to get the necessary power. I'm confined to one little corner of this room. And I would love to have a better, bigger workshop with better camera setups so you could actually see me sandpaper or sand wood. All right. Da, 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 da. All right. That's going to work. And then just got to put my sign in there. But we've done the bulk of it. I've just got to get a little more sanding on there to get that down in there 100%. But I wanted to show you this. And like I said, everything about this design was inspired by what Craig seen from Miss Vicky at that craft fair in Mayo, Florida. And I reverse engineered a design, something similar. In functionality, it's exactly the same. But conceptually, it's a little different. And in the artistic, it's a little different. I've got a different truck. She even said she liked my tires and wheels and fender setup better than the one she had. And there's a painted, decorated version versus the all natural. And for all of you guys who are patrons and you either can get this for free or get it at a discount, now you've had a demonstration and tips. I've put two of them together and they work, they spin, they move. And you've had instruction here tonight on how to customize that ring and add other artworks and Santa Claus or snowmen, or if you want to, you can put a big old California high sign in there. Y'all know what the California high sign is? You can make it whatever you want it to be. I painted it, V. What do you mean, who painted it? Ain't nobody else in here but me and my dog, and my dog's probably outside in places she shouldn't be right now. Let's see here. Well, I can't buy it right now because I have a few thousand tied up on PayPal, so I'm mad. Boy, got money for Black Friday deals and didn't get anything. Man. Yeah, I don't think. I think this come up in conversation in one of the other streams. He didn't do any Black Friday or Cyber Monday deals, and honestly, and I told, and y'all have heard me say this before, I told Leo when I first met him that I felt like this was it was underpriced. I thought should be selling for more than it is because of the quality and the precision that the machine has. But he wanted to bring in a premium product and still be able to compete in price with some of the mid-par products out there. So he kept it at a very reasonable price, but it's cheap enough that definitely doesn't warrant any sale prices. And yeah, I painted it, and I painted that with spray paint, except for the tree. Actually, I painted the tree with spray paint too, and then added the detail with 3 different colors of my paint pens. And if you go into my shop supplies on hobowithwood.com, you'll see a link to these. But these are really cool. They are water-based, non-toxic, and real easy to use, extra fine point, but you can do, back up, see if I can pull this back apart. You can do larger areas. I did this whole tree. Here we go. This whole tree was painted. That area was painted with green spray paint. And then, in fact, well, it's right here. This is a good picture. Blow it up. Switch. So that whole area was painted with the green spray paint. This area was masked off and cut with the laser. So I had areas exposed. So when I sprayed it, I got green spray in here and here and here. That was covered with tape, and I had to go back and touch it up afterwards. And I had to pause for a minute. I need to find out where my dog's at. But all of those little details, that was done with 2 or 3 different colors of the paint pens to create the look of the branches and all that. So instead of making you guys hold for me while I go check on my dog, we're over 2 hours. We're going to wrap it up here. Does it have real red? Let's see here. Let me see. Got more questions and comments. Who painted it? Did you show the deer? I did not show the deer sign. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Does it have real red? I'm talking about the paint pens. There are some reds in the paint pens. I don't know what you mean by real red, but they've got a red, extra fine point. It's not shooken up. It's not mixed up. And then they got another red, a darker red, and there's 24 colors in here. And then a more of a mauve. Come on, baby. So 3 different variations. Shake them up real good, and you can mix them up, and they blend really well with one another. I get really good detail with them. Oops, let's see here. A dark hot pink. Yeah, this And there's two reds here. And one of them is more of a pink color. This one's more pink and that's more red. And right now they've been sitting in the box and they separate. So they take, quite a bit of shake away action before you go to use them. And they dry darker than they appear. Where's my waste board? It's somewhere. But as they dry, they get darker too. But yeah, I'm pleased. I'm real happy with what the results I get from them. So guys, thank you for watching. That I felt like I don't do assembly videos of my projects, but that one, because Craig did have that specific little roadblock, hiccup, stumbling block. I thought it'd be a good idea to show that and discussed it. So hobowithwood.com, you can get a copy, you get have access to that file there, along with a lot more Christmas stuff. But this one's dated 1 through 24, and or change it to 1 through 25. You can do that. I showed you how to do it in this video. Connie, there's a good chance that she may have gotten in trouble, but actually she's really, really good. She grew up on this. She's almost 11 years old, and she grew up on this corner in this yard. And this is, we traveled for 2 years, and she hated that. She'd rather be here. But this is her home. This is her environment. And I can probably go over there and look, and she's sitting right there on the back porch. All right, guys. You guys have a great night, and we will see you at least Saturday with another good stream and another ideas and projects. Don't know what it'll be yet because Craig hadn't told me what I'm going to do. So you guys have a good night. I'm going to go check on my dog, and we'll see you guys real soon. Thanks for coming.